Hardcore Lies.
Hey guys, Rob from Georgia here with you, aka VHS82 apostrophe. I'm your regular Wednesday evening host here at Body Bags. It is week 560, and with that, I bring you review number 300. Friday the 13th, part 7. It's only been done once before, I think, an old review, and I actually thought number 300 was going to come after this review. But as I started to look at it, I forgot that I had actually covered Cannibal Holocaust twice on Body Bags. A really good reason for that. But and so I forgot. And so there it was, sitting there looking at Friday the 13th, part 7 as potentially my number 300. Do I change it, not change it? And after a long thought process, I really did think about this. The more I looked at it, the more I thought about it, the more I thought, you know what? This makes sense for number 300 for a lot of reasons. Least of all, we're talking Friday the 13th, and we're talking in terms of outside number 1 and 2, right? 3, I love 3, 1982, my favorite year for film. Saw it in the theater at 3D when I was 12 years old. I still can't figure out how I got into the theater for that. But outside of that, you know, everyone has their go-to comfort food related Friday they love to just put on for the fun. Mine is has always been 7. I never really quite understood why until this review. I think I finally know the answer to that, and hopefully that'll come through my review. But to show you my love for Friday, its franchise, unfortunately I can't show off the Scream Factory box. That one eluded me. But I do have this beautiful Christmas present for my son that shows my love for the franchise. And with that, number 7, the ventricular cover there. I don't have the entire franchise like this. I do have the cheap Walmart. I don't know what it was. I can't remember how much it was now for all 8 films. And I've had to go outside and collect a few others. Jason X, had to buy that separately. I do have a few like this. I do have Friday 2 on Blu-ray Steelbook. And the first one like this, and the final chapter like this. But my Friday franchise is, well, it's left wanting. I really wish I could have nailed down that box set from Scream. Maybe now more than ever. But anyways, Friday 7. Why? Well, let's just start with this. I've been listening to a few podcasts on and off here that have covered this. I'm not going to mention any names, but one of them I was listening to, I couldn't even remember the director of the film, John Carl Buechler. How do you not know or remember the director of the film? You're doing a podcast. Now, I mean, if you're just throwing up a quick review, I could see maybe, but doing a podcast, and again, there was a few I was listening to, and just it didn't seem like they understood what some of the major issues were driving the flaws that are inherent in this film. But beyond those flaws, and I'll give you 2, the MPAA, which everyone knows, which is freaking garbage, considering the nature of this particular Friday, and Barbara Sachs, the producer. Where was Frank Mancuso Jr., who is credited as, well, actually uncredited as executive producer, but where the freaking crap was he to keep Barbara Sachs off of John Buechler's freaking back? No one was there, seemingly, to protect him. Now, he ultimately, in the end, did, I think, for the most part, get the movie he was sort of looking for. But when you really deep dive, like issue number 75 on Fangoria, Chas Balin did a really great article on this. The cover was, I remember the cover, I had it written down somewhere. Yeah, Phantasm 2 cover, issue number 75. Chas Balin had a great, that's 1988 July, sits down with John Carl Buechler. Really great, phenomenal review. And you'd really kind of get into the mindset of exactly, and if you watch like the 10-15 minute little thing on here, you get the impression that those were his two biggest enemies. Now, who was John Carl Buechler? There, I almost forgot. I guess it's possible. Who was he? Coming out of Empire Pictures, Charles Band, he was known for like Ghoulies, Troll, more fantastical realmed fantasy, type films. He wasn't a big fan of the slasher as a subgenre of a much larger genre of horror films. He loved to kind of go out there into more of a fantasy realm. And he says that when Part 6 came around, for the first time, he suddenly saw opportunities begin to open up in terms of, there's something there. There's something that I could do with my mindset. And he comes from more... Now, I'm wearing my Lucio Fulci Lives zombie shirt. This is the closest, and this is why I think the reason why I love, and this is my comfort food, and I'll get several reasons why, but this is the closest I think we'll ever get, and did get, to the idea I've always harbored, which is, what would it be like if Lucio Fulci could have directed a Friday the 13th? I think this is the closest we're ever going to get, and did get, because John Carl Buechler comes in from not such a dramatically different point of view or aesthetically point of view as somebody like Fulci might have come into it. It's a different sort of Friday, but not that far removed from where 6 started to take the franchise in light of Part 5, which over the years has grown on me. But initially, when it first came out, I walked out of the theater. I just, once I realized we're dealing with an imposter, Jason, I just, as a kid, I didn't want to have anything to do with it. Now, I'll say since then, it's grown on me as what it is. For the film it is. But Friday, in its old sort of universal way, resurrected Jason in a very sort of supernatural way. And he started to become something a little bit different. John Carl Buechler pushed that a little further. The only thing really lacking was an intense amount of, say, nightmare logic. You would have gotten something like City of the Living Dead, which just would have been freaking awesome. Could you imagine Jason just, standing within, the wood line and eye to eye with a potential victim, and she gets caught in his trance, and maybe he just lifts the mask up and then just stares, and then you just have a sort of nod to City of the Living Dead with a girl vomiting up her insides, or something like that, some more like Phantasm or Nightmare on Elm Street, City of the Living Dead, The Beyond, some of the movies that already laid down a groundwork for some really, really cool nightmare logic. If you're into that, which I is continually, I think City of the Living Dead is the greatest horror movie ever. But I think Friday 7 is the closest we'll ever get to knowing what that might have been like in terms of in the hands of somebody like Lucio Fulci. John Carl Buechler sort of came at it from somewhat of a similar point of view. Now you put Kane Hodder, first opportunity to be Jason. They had already worked together on Prison. This is, of course, at the end of the Empire Pictures days. So they already had a relationship. And you have a personality brought to Jason for the first time that is, even in the greatest makeup job ever for Jason, is John Carl Buechler. And that was his main responsibility that he took upon himself, was to create, I think, the greatest looking Jason. When he is brought up from the murky bottom and rises up out of the water, and you kind of get the detail of his back, the spinal cord and everything. And then he is a monster carved out of the old Universal woodwork. This is, for me personally, now look, Jason in part 3, when he takes a mask off, I mean, you know, it's a lot like this. It's creepy, man. And when he's staring out that window and that dream sequence at the end, it's freaking creepy, man. You know, and so you got Kane Hodder, man. Throughout the entire movie, the personality just shines through the makeup, through the prosthetics, even while with the hockey mask on. It just shines through in a way that only Kane Hodder could do. And, you know, and the more I think about it, I mean, I've been kind of hard on him for getting just as upset as he did for not getting the Freddy versus Jason role. But, you know, now I'm starting to pull back a little bit more on his side and understanding more. He really, man, poured himself into this. The burn sequence in this movie, he took it much longer than he should have. I mean, where safety is a concern. Even the fall through the staircase, he, I think, pretty much caught his head on part of it, and he's lucky he didn't break his neck on that stunt. He was the stunt coordinator on this as well. And John Carl brought Greg Johnson, as pretty much in charge of the special effects piece. Between Greg Johnson, Kane Hodder, John Carl Buechler, his vision. With no thanks to Barbara Sachs, no thanks to the MPA. Okay, so this is the first Friday, which is an extension off of 6. Opens up more of a fantasy world in terms of the nature of what Friday is becoming or could become. And how this is a problem with the MPA, I get it. You're dealing with like what a death count of 17. You know, the MPA is not going to be easy to work with, but they typically are nicer to those who are dealing with not such a grounded feel, but more of a fantasy feel. You got, you know, Evil Dead 2, Hellbound, Hellraiser 2. They're getting R ratings, and their gore pretty spectacular at points. Every single turn, you know, just imagine some of the best kill scenes in this movie. Just that much more crazier. The dude on the beach, man, when he comes around with the axe and just gets him right in the face. His face literally splits open. But that wasn't going to get by the MPA. And John Carl Buechler mentions that was the most spectacular effect, the best effect that he had ever been around. And we lost it. We never got it. The buzzsaw thing, man, when he gets Cruz, I mean, his stomach just splits wide open, guts go flying everywhere. You know, get it? The MPA freaking, as he said, John Carl said, he said a few things that are really interesting. They're castrating my film inch by inch, his comment on the MPAA. He also, in terms of Jason, just from his point of view, Buechler said he's a metaphysical, supernatural, psycho metaphor, the dark one, the epitome of wanton evil. And so you kind of get an idea where he was headed. And if he would have had, more support in terms of the producer role, again, Frank Mancuso Jr., where the freaking crap were you? If he would have had more support, I can't even imagine how this movie potentially could have been, okay, call it a distant relative, maybe of your Phantasms, Nightmare on Elm Street, City of the Living Dead's type Nightmare Logic induced type films. It could have been at least bare minimum a distant relative, but one that would have brought some real joy, man, to this film. And he says, and I think in that same interview, he says that mentions that towards the end, now this is 88, of course, and there's already discussions about Freddy and Jason, mixing it up. And his idea was Tina being part of that, the telekinetically driven, psychic telekinetic driven protagonist of our film here, who has a duel with Jason, which is, I mean, I think it's great. I think it's a great part of this movie. I don't know how people trash this movie as much as they do. And I know they do, because I've listened to several podcasts, and I'm just, man, I don't, you see, people don't see the positive or really get inside, do their homework, do some reading, do some, research, and go back to, what was driving the film at the moment, what was the handicaps, the stumbling blocks, in this case, combination of the MPAA and Barbara Sachs, who were just doing, John said that he had a scene. And I mean, I don't know if it would have worked. And if he didn't think it would have worked, he would have pulled it out. It wouldn't have been part of the final cut. But he had a vision of a young Jason boy holding on to the head of his mother while the head of his mother, Pamela Voorhees, talked or was talking. That could have been freaking fun to look at. But Barbara Sachs said, absolutely no, it's stupid. No one's going to get it. See, this is, some of these people who don't understand horror fans, to this day, do not understand horror fans and the level of intellectualism that does drive us. Nowhere across the span of cinema is there a fan base like the horror film fan base anywhere out there. I mean, military films, perhaps, you may find some, but I mean, in horror, I mean, where else do you find the rabid collectors, those who just want all the piles of extras, who go to the conventions, who know directors, know the special effects team at work, understand the ups and downs, the trials of why their film, their beloved film, the film they still love, why it just failed at this point or that point or this point. Is there another genre of film out there aside from horror that has this? I think not. I see my time, and I'm just gonna, I had three sheets of notes, man. I just barely, as far as John Carl Buechler, he had an absolutely rich career steeped in special effects, and that's really where he comes from. Empire Pictures, where he developed many of his most important relationships early on. I didn't realize Kane Hodder was uncredited as one of the officers in gas masks in Devil's Rejects in the opening scene. I didn't realize that. I love my favorite kill in here. I love Melissa's death, man, and that's another one that got cut down for the MPAA. She is the one you hate the most in this movie, I think, aside from Cruz, who you love that too. But when Melissa, man, she's like, y'all can off, and goes and opens up that door, man, and Jason is just, Kane Hodder's just hovering over here with the axe and just blah, and then steps in and throws her off over the, don't you miss those 25-inch console TVs. Gotta love that, man. Gotta love that. I think I hit a lot on my, the narration at the beginning. Crazy Ralph, did you realize? You probably did. Crazy Ralph, Walt Gorney does the opening. Great montage sequence for that. If you didn't remember, John Carl Buechler did die in 2019. He was only 66, lost a great one. Kane Hodder's the only one, I think, that went on to do, what does he do? Four films? 7, 8, Jason Goes to Hell, Jason X. Could have been Freddy versus Jason, but that just, Ronnie Yu was it? He wanted somebody a lot bigger, more hulking, or I don't know, something like that to match up with Freddy a little bit different, which doesn't matter for the character, because I think it's written freaking horribly. That is a New Line Cinema film first and foremost, and so Jason's just not going to get equal play on that. I think I hit most of everything I wanted to hit, I think, except for the deep dive on John Carl's career. I'll say this, I didn't realize he worked on The Curse of Michael Myers and Reanimator, Mausoleum. It's a few, but yeah, we'll just wind this down. I know I'm getting late, but this is number 300, man, and we're talking Friday, and we're talking, just a missed opportunity. This movie could have really, really been fun, and the perfect platform to segue into a Freddy versus Jason and bring Tina back. She said in the interview too that that she would have loved to reprise her role as Tina and take on another fight. And I think there was a story there. That story could have been way better than what we ultimately got. Although we ought to be thankful we got what we got. I get that. So I guess that's it. For review number 300, I don't know how many lie past this point, but at this point, just wanted to share a little bit of my love for a film that does get trashed a lot, probably even by Friday's fans for varying reasons. But it's my comfort food, man. Some go to 6, some go to whichever. But it's my comfort food, man. It's where I love to go. I freaking absolutely just love so much of this. But man, what could have been? What really, really, really could have been. It's unfortunate. So with that, number 300, Jason says, thank you for all the support. Do me a favor, share this review, pass it around if you think it's worthy enough, good enough. Appreciate it. Drop some comments down below. Where's your comfort food within the franchise? What do you always constantly go to? For me, it's VII. Hit that like, sub if you haven't subbed. Not only the body bags, of course, first and foremost, but my own channel. Appreciate it. Yeah, it all helps in the end, right? We're all working to always strive to keep horror at the forefront of what we love, that is near and dear to our heart. So from one lover of horror to the many others, I assume, hopefully watching this now, thank you. And good stuff, man. As always, we end these things off with Go Bills.
This is not a dream. Not a dream. We might be useful to you.